question?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Where was it at? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Discord. I tagged you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thought it was a pretty good conversation starter.
Yeah.
Are we going? Hey, we're going.
Yeah. We should be on. So, all right. Let me. Oh, there we go. I'm just gonna make sure my sound's off. Okay.
Hey,
all
y'all.
Right. So we're live. Let me know about the volume if it's too much. Every time I do one of these interviews or whatever, I have to adjust my speaker here is a little loud, and I end up having to adjust the volume bar up and down on the. Every time somebody else is talking, I have to adjust the volume on the video. So there's a lot of editing and post that happens there. So let us know on the sound.
I make things complicated. That's a short version.
Yeah. All right. So busy couple days. My drink, most importantly though, the drink is Kavita Sparkling Probiotic. That part doesn't matter, it just tastes good. Mojita Lime Mint Coconut. So that's what the most important part about this is. So
mine is very unexciting. It is a beat-up Nalgene water bottle with a storm sticker on it.
Oh, cool. That's exciting.
Water.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
I might have some dandelion tea later.
Nice.
It's pretty fantastic. All right, so we're going to let some people filter in right now. Yesterday, I got the Parallax videos up, and then got trend videos up today, and then Vegas Pro really didn't want me to get IQ videos out, but somehow I squeaked those in before the chat interview premiered. And now we're doing this thing here, so we're going to be talking about... There we go. We're going to be talking some new releases as soon as everybody kind of filters in. Let me go ahead and... I'm not actually sure in all the craziness of everything that I shared this on Facebook. Of course, it should send out a notification to everybody that's... so we're just going to put this on the Facebooks here really quick, since I didn't get that done earlier. So James, why don't you talk about something here for a second? You got to try the new ones this morning. You got those all drilled up and ready to go.
I did, yeah. It was I mean, we'll talk about this more once we actually get into talking about the new releases individually. But it was a session full of surprises. I shot 289 with the ball I was the least certain of. And the ball I was most excited to throw just wasn't the right matchup for those particular conditions, so it didn't really look all that great.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that really surprised me was the Parallax. It was a lot of fun to throw. I had a lot of pocket control with that ball, and I went through the pins really well.
Mm-hmm.
The one I was most excited to throw was the IQ Nano Pearl. Unfortunately, that just really at my home. I was testing at my home center, Buffalo Lanes Cary in Cary, North Carolina, and they were. The way that center plays is slow, smooth, round stuff just does not strike there very much. And at least for me, the IQ Nano Pearl is slow, smooth, and round. So that's kind of the kiss of death. I was watching back my video a few minutes ago. I think I 10 bent 7 or 8 times just in like 20 minutes of testing.
Yeah.
So no, the trend was a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what that ball will do, especially later in blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Clean and responsive, but not like overly jumpy.
Yeah.
I actually felt like it was a symmetric astrophysics for me, which that's a pretty big compliment, honestly, because I throw my astro a ton.
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely got that R2S Pearl feel to it that no matter what core's inside of it, it's got that very distinct, kind of sharp but still round at the same time, and with it being kind of a medium friction, or not medium friction response, medium strength overall, it kind of puts you into mid-block, later in league type stuff. So
yeah, it's definitely it's a mid-strength, fairly responsive cover, but not really jumpy, which is kind of an interesting combination to have.
Yeah.
Like it's never, if you get in over or under, then that's pretty unusual for that to happen.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to describe sometimes because you feel like that typical staffer guy that's going like, well, it's clean through the fronts, but then it revs up in the mid lane, but then somehow it still saves something for the back end and whatever else. So
Yeah, I think I didn't really catch what you said. I'm
okay.
sure the stream did, but I think we're having some connection issues.
Yeah, my computer keeps saying the internet connection's unstable, which I don't understand. But anyway, I was just saying that it's kind of like the typical staffer guy thing where it was clean through the fronts, but it revs up hard in the mid lane, but then somehow it's got enough left on the back end for a big back end move.
Yeah, I know. Staffer cliches.
Yeah. So, but
Staffer bingo, right?
Yeah. It kind of does all that. So.
Yeah.
Let me.
Hey, before we dive into it, I actually saw a really good question from Brian Mercure. He was wondering, wanted to get our thoughts on drilling with versus without inserts for a fingertip fit.
Yeah.
So I've never tried it personally. Have you?
I have. I think I've actually tried it once, but my fingers, it just doesn't work well with. I like having tighter, and so the grips allow a little bit more flex than just the ball does. Otherwise, you're going to be changing tape in and out, or if it's not super important on the finger feel. Mine just if the grips aren't tight, I tend to kind of lose it at the bottom. So I like having the grips in there to be a little bit tighter. But the thing is, if you go ahead and drill them with no inserts to begin with and don't like it, then you just make the holes bigger and pop the inserts in. So there's no harm, no foul in trying it if you want to give that a shot. So you just have to make sure that the bridge is big enough, number one, because you are going to have some bevel at the top of the holes, and you're going to have to drill a little bit of that bevel out when you open the holes up. Not a whole lot. I mean, if you do it right and just put the edge of the bit on the inside of the hole, then you got to have bevel at the top of the holes anyway. But
yeah.
So yeah, I'd say give it a shot.
Yeah, I've never tried it myself, so I know some people swear by it, and a lot of people don't really like it that much.
Yeah, I got
personally, I use vacuum grips, so I actually draw out the holes a little bigger and use smaller inserts.
Yeah.
So I like that really snug, consistent feeling. That's just not something you really get with pure like finger holes with no ovals, with no grips in them. So.
Yeah, I've got some friends that do that, and they swear by it. I think generally people that do that have a stronger grip or tend to grip a little bit more, and so the inserts can actually give them blisters or actually kind of cause them some problems, or they catch it too much. So not having the grips in there is going to get you a little bit cleaner out of the ball, and if that's something you're interested in checking out, then that would be a it's no harm, no foul trying it out. So
yeah, agreed there.
And if you like it, then it saves you money on grips. So
yeah.
Let's see, what was the other one that come on, where's the? I have no idea where my mouse. There it is. I don't know where that disappeared to. Let's see. Can all three of these balls be a good house shot arsenal? They'd be a strong house shot arsenal. But if you have a lower rev rate or a fair bit of oil, yeah, I think that was something that I mentioned with Chad, is that all three of these could work together really well, because you have some
ball speed.
Yeah, you have some different shapes, you have some different hook potentials. All three of them are kind of a different shape realistically. I mean, they're all pretty continuous, but the Parallax is pretty slow. The IQ is kind of in between there, and the trend's pretty quick. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. And I guess we can loop back to this later, but Justin Stewart was also wondering how these would fit into the sport collection series you did, the 1 ball through the 5 ball.
Oh yeah.
So I made a note that we can circle back to it later.
Okay. Yeah. When Justin will answer that here in a minute. They're going to be on the higher end of things.
Yeah. I agree with that for sure.
IQ out of box surface, I'm not a big fan of currently. Parallax was amazing. I'll throw the trend later next week. Oh, Kelly's at a matchmaker, and that's the IQ out of box surface. I think most people, it's weird to have a a sanded pearl. I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of sanded pearls myself, and so I think when it shines up, it'll be frickin' amazing. It's just a little, it'll go down a little bit further and be a little stronger on the back end, but I think you're still going to have that just relentless continuation.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
when is the ball giveaway going to happen with all the video producers? Whenever they hit their goals. We are still waiting on. I haven't forgotten about that. It's just there's really no updates to have, and
I think I'm at about 1,400. I think, give or take, right now.
So yeah, we have a handful of them they're still making progress. So definitely still share that video and share the keep track of that. Invite other people to subscribe to those channels, because as soon as those channels get to their goals, then that's when we can give everything away, and that's when they're going to do their giveaways too. Don't forget that, is that each individual channel has their own giveaway that they're doing at the same time. So when they reach their goal, there's a giveaway there, and then when they all reach their goals, then that's when my big giveaway is. So yep, it's still on the table. It just hasn't happened yet. So. Would the Parallax be a better complement to the UFO than the nuclear cell, or would the nuclear cell be the choice for that? Let me defer to you on this.
I think they're going to complement them, just in different ways. They're both, the nuke and the Parallax are both going to be cleaner than the UFO. It's just a question of, when you're stepping down from the UFO, do you want something that's going to get down lane and still be smooth? Or do you want something that's going to get down lane and really just put on a blinker and go once it sees friction?
Yeah, it's
and
really...
If you want smooth, then Parallax. If you want pick up and go, then nuclear.
Yeah,
I think that's probably kind of how I'd look at that.
It's kind of a shape thing. Even though if you're bowling on a fresh shot, if you compare like you were saying, you had to stand 7 left of the Parallax with your Astro, but that's because of shape, not actual traction. And I imagine
very much so.
I imagine the same thing is going to be true of the nuclear cell. It's going to force you to play a lot bigger angles. And so, yeah, if you're trying to keep your angles closed down and still have something that's got a lot of traction, because the Parallax does have a lot of traction. It's kind of hard to see because it's so smooth. But if you still need that kind of cover strength, but it depends on where you're trying to stay, what part of the lane you're going to. So it's a very either-or question. The nuke and the Parallax could definitely fit in the same bag with the UFO. That's a lot of strong stuff on top of strong stuff, but the shapes are pretty different.
Yeah.
All right. What would be a good shape to add to my Halo Pearl in Phase 2 on the left side? Halo Pearl's probably pretty good, and the Phase 2 is strong, but that's probably pretty good. You
Emerald?
can't... Yeah, Emerald. That's what I was just going to say. Emerald or IQ Tour. Those are going to be my first 2 responses to anybody asking anything about the left side of the lane. Because like I said, my IQ Tour Solid looks for me on the left side of the lane like the Idol Pro does on the right side. The Idol Pro is too much ball on the left side, but the Tour Solid kind of balances out all the extra free hook all over the place on that side of the lane. So I'm going to say right under there, Emerald or IQ Tour Solid.
Yeah, and that kind of depends whether you want something that's going to be early and smooth or get down the lane and be kind of rolly.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're both amazing balls, so hard to argue with either one.
Yeah. Is it worth having an Axiom and an IQ Tour Nano Pearl in the same bag? Very different things on paper, but round, early, and continuous pretty accurately describe both. I would say yes, but I would say the Axiom's still a fair, handful of boards stronger than the Tour Nano Pearl.
Yeah, I'd say that's a similar answer to Phase 2 IQ Nano Pearl. In a lot of respects, where the Phase 2 is, it natively covers more boards than the Nano Pearl does. It's not to say you can't make the Nano Pearl cover boards.
Yeah.
But like if you want to force it to change direction, but if you do the same thing to the Phase 2 and the Nano Pearl, the Phase 2 is just going to cover more directional change laterally.
Is the Phase 3 too snappy to be a benchmark? Yes and no. It really depends more on your game than anything else, and you can always hit it with a 3000 pad or something like that. That general idea of a bigger core shiny ball, could be a benchmark for you if you normally throw stuff like that, nuclear cells, physics, that kind of thing. It could definitely be a benchmark.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people sleep on how strong R3S hybrid is as a cover stock, as well as
Yeah.
like how much it reads front to back.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, like yes, it could be that like smooth, predictable type of shape, but it comes down to bowler profile and the environments you're seeing on a regular basis more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So could be it could be a great idea, could be a terrible idea. Kind of depends.
Yeah. All right, so I think we got most of the questions answered there now. So,
Sweet.
let's talk about the new stuff. Like I said, you got to throw them this morning. I got all my videos up. I got Angel's videos up. There's going to be plenty of comparison videos to come, so don't worry if I didn't compare it to a ball that you're interested in. I also have electrifies that are going on my brand new drill press that I have out in the garage. Tomorrow morning, at some point, I am going to do a stream for one of those to just kind of show you my setup and just, hang out for a second and drill something. It's going to be loud, but it's kind of the way that works.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what ball do you want to start with for us talking about it?
Well, let's start with the Parallax, because that seems to be the one that everybody's most interested in. People know about R2S Pearl, they know about IQs, but the Parallax is all new everything. So, judging by video view results from Storm and from other people that already have the videos up for some reason.
Go figure.
Yeah. But judging by view counts, people are really interested in the Parallax. So, brand new cover, brand new core. If you watched my Chad McLean interview before we got started here, he talked about the cover strength, the general idea of it, and then talked a little bit of core development. I think he said that was kind of Alex Hoskins' baby that kind of drew that up and designed that. Jason, you're awesome too. But yeah, Parallax is interesting because, like I said, and I will not shut up about the Halo burn. I've told James repeatedly.
We know you won't shut up about that.
Yeah, I've told him repeatedly about it. I've told him the exact same things on 20 or 30 different occasions, and that might even be an understatement. And considering that I normally exaggerate everything.
Yeah, 20 to 30, that sounds about right. At least.
Yeah. So, the Parallax feels a lot to me like an NRG Pearl ball. And NRG Pearl isn't exactly what you think of. When most people think Pearl ball, they think astrophysics. They think something's going to fly down the lane and then turn sideways. NRG Pearl doesn't do that. It's stronger, but it's also smooth. And so the benefits for me is that NRG doesn't, number one, burn up on friction. The shine is still going to get you down the lane, but the overall strength is still going to blend things out, almost like the ball does have a little bit of surface on it. And then it's still going to save enough for the back end. The polish isn't going to make it jerk on friction, and it's not going to be as sensitive to track burn or little friction spots. And so even though it's traction X7 and it's a hybrid, it feels a lot like Nano Pearl to me.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah, I've never thrown any of the Nano Pearl balls. I think I wasn't even bowling when the Virtual Gravity Nano Pearl came out, which I think was the last stateside Nano Pearl ball. Period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely it was an odd reaction that like it's a shape or a friction response that I've never really seen before, aside from maybe. Honestly, at least for me, it reminds me a little bit of the Crux Prime, or the
Pearl,
the Omega Crux.
Oh, the Omega, yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that is similar but yet different. It's this kind of like loopy, smooth, like you can just chuck it at the friction, and it's gonna walk back to the pocket and not flip too quick, not burn out, but just like I've never had this is the clearest way I can explain it. I've never had a shiny ASIM where my look was better right of third arrow than it was left of fourth arrow.
Yeah.
Until today. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like I'm almost getting original phase vibes of where it's a completely counterintuitive reaction to what you would think based on a spec sheet.
Yeah, and especially with Chad talking about the core and it being that cutout through the middle, making it higher RG because they have a lot of strong stuff. I think the physics is 248, and then even the catalyst core I think is 250
I think so.
or
Let me check real quick.
251 perhaps.
I think it's 250. I'm pulling up the page right now.
Okay. But then the virtual
Yeah, it's
or
250.
okay, and then the gravity evolve is down there too. It's 248 or 249, I believe. So they have a
Gravity Evolve is 248.
okay. So yeah, they've got a bunch of really early and which doesn't really fit the physics. I mean, you would think that with as much length and punch as both those balls have, that the RG is not nearly as low as it is, but they got some pretty early chuggy stuff, and so especially to balance out this cover, they needed something with a little bit more natural shape out of the core. And I think the intermediate diff on this new core is like 019 too.
Yeah,
So
it's 054 diff, 019 int diff.
yeah. So it's higher RG, but it's also higher differential and higher intermediate diff too. So yeah, there's a lot of extra shape built into the core, which I think it needs because there's not a whole lot of shape built into the cover. But again, the thing that I like about Nano Pearl, which it seems like, which it's actually traction, or he calls it TX, but it's traction X7 hybrid. If you find the right zone, it's really hard to miss the pocket. Because if you tug it a little bit, it's just going to sit there because there's not a whole lot of natural shape. It's not gonna take off. But if you get it too far right too quick, it's going to be a little bit slower about making its way back up to the pocket. And so if you find that right little zone where you've got like 2 or 3 boards left and 2 or 3 boards right, then you've got an entire arrow that you can hit at the break point and hit the pocket. And again, because it doesn't burn energy on friction, there's a lot more energy going into the pins.
Yeah, and thus again, these are not traits you would normally think of when you're talking about shiny, hybrid, asymmetric. So it's one that kind of makes you think a little bit reaction wise. But it was, that was the look. Actually, you want me to share a little bit of the video I got this morning?
Yeah, go ahead and do that because I'm kind of interested. I haven't seen that yet myself. So,
okay.
James did film this morning for his stuff. Obviously,
I can't share my screen right now.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's disabled screen sharing.
Oh, I don't think I disabled screen sharing.
Or participant
there we go.
Sharing.
Multiple participants can share. Okay, I think I changed it. Maybe not.
Yep, there we go. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. There's that. Hopefully, is this working?
Yeah. Hey, it is working.
Maybe.
Check
Possibly.
that out. Yeah.
All right. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. So this is a long low volume pattern on Gen 1 Anvilane. This is in the middle of, I mentioned I shot 289 with this ball. So you can see like right there, I threw one straight at the friction and it just kind of picked up and walked back to the pins.
Yeah.
And that one I got in a little more and it still went through it really well. Versus if you scroll back, I'm going to go back to earlier in my testing and you can see, some of these shots like, this shot right here, I get to the friction from further left and it's just kind of, it really doesn't want to climb the hill, but that's because I'm playing more directional change essentially. Same with this shot right here. I'm asking it to change more direction. I barely get the 5 pin out. And then I keep chasing left and that when I got to the friction enough and it had enough time to climb the hill.
Yeah.
But a lot of these cases where I'm expecting it to be more like an astrophysics, it doesn't want to do that. Like they're both shiny asymmetrics, but they're complete polar opposites.
Yeah.
Let me, just for illustration purposes, this is my Astro on the same lane right after that. Is you see us flipping and going dead left off the end of the pattern. When I'm getting that shot right there, I was almost a big 4.
Yeah.
And I'm finally getting here to hitting pocket from like 6 boards left at the arrows and I think this is a stuffed 9 pin. Yep, there we go. but yeah, I'm finally getting to that far left. How do I stop sharing my screen? There we go. So yeah, I'm getting to that far. Like I have to get that far left with the Astro because of the friction response versus what I was getting with the Parallax. So it's a very different feel. Between those and kind of how they react.
And something important to note too is it's purely friction response. It's because a lot of people are going to see that and think, "Oh wow, the Astro outhooks the Parallax by an arrow and a half." Well, no, it actually doesn't outhook it; it out backends it.
Yeah.
But once you get on higher, something that's a lot higher volume, or like you said, you're interested to see if they're because Buffalo Carry is what 50 feet and 18 mils or something ridiculous like that.
That's exactly what it is.
So
the
not
50-to-1 ratio is stupid.
Yeah.
Like everything gets really mushy front to back. A lot of times, ball reaction wise, I throw my astrophysics about 95% of the time in that building.
Yeah.
And that's the best look I've got.
Yeah, and so so if you get the chance to bull on something that's got higher volume or higher head volume, that's going to maybe change things a little bit. That you'll be able to get a better idea what kind of real traction the Parallax has, and then that's probably going to shift the balance between that and the Astro a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. But I mean, it's house shot is a context for a lot of the people that I think are watching the videos that you and I are putting out. So I think in that context, it kind of makes sense that that's what we're testing on. So it is good to kind of call out the differences and where you might see it one way on house, but another in a different situation.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, the big thing with the Parallax, and I mentioned this in the video, is that it is that different look, and it's something, and that's why I keep telling you, with that kind of a look is the one thing that I think that we're missing in the catalog, specifically, the friction response, pretty well everything across the board. So now people finally get to see what I've been rambling about, and James finally understands what it's like to have a halo burn, and which is it's not exactly the same ball. But
they're very similar in a lot of respects with how they respond to friction.
Yeah, they're very similar. The idea is more of a familiar thing. So
yeah, Nate Henderson asked a really good question. How would you relate cover strength from the Parallax to something else in the line?
Let's see. And Nate's a new Patreon sub too, so I sent him something, and hopefully he'll sign up on Discord, and you can come talk to me and James. And
I think
Mr.
he actually
Bill.
joined Discord earlier this evening, which
okay.
I'll drop the link in chat again for
cool. That. So yeah, cover strength, and Chad actually mentioned this. He said that NEX that's on the Axiom is kind of the strongest out there right now, and I think there was something else. I think he might have said that GI18 or GI20 that's on the Omega is a little bit stronger than Traction X7. I can't remember exactly which one, but the Traction X7 is really close to the top of the. He said it's actually stronger than Spec, and even though Spec's really smooth, but it's actually pretty strong at the same time. So. What would you both relate cover strength to the Parallax? Like maybe the Omega with a little bit more teeth. I think it's like the Omega with a little bit more shape. I think that the cover strengths are actually pretty close. It's just the Omega is, and this is funny to say because the Parallax is pretty smooth to begin. Pretty smooth too. But the Omega is smooth, but it's also slower on friction at the same time.
I would be very curious to see a polished Omega versus a Parallax.
Yeah. I think that the Omega.
I think those would be very close.
Yeah, I think that the Omega would be a little bit longer, similar friction response.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the Parallax overall is just a hair stronger than the Omega. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see the two of those side by side, both at the same surface.
They're both. I mean, they're both stronger, but not super duper early covers.
Yeah.
With big block ASIM, of course, inside of them.
Yeah.
But big block ASIM doesn't like flip and tumble super early.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different formulas, but yeah, I think they're kind of close-ish in that regard.
Yeah, and it's a tricky. The Parallax is a little bit of a tricky reaction to wrap your head around, especially if, like you said earlier, that you're not used to having that type of a look. So when you're used to stuff like that, like the physics and the astrophysics and nuclear cells and stuff like that, to have this act a little more symmetrical, a little but not symmetrical at the same time, and it's just a little bit weird. But yeah, it is kind of Omega Crux-ish, and I think that the Crux actually, that comparison, now that I think about it, I think is going to help people work into the Parallax a little bit better, because we've had some Crux releases that are a little bit earlier and slower and smoother, and people recognize the benefit in that. And so I think this is actually going to be easier to assimilate than I think most people might think it would be, or maybe I'm the one that pointed that out in the first place. So so it's probably easier for other people to assimilate to it than I expected that they would be able to. So
yeah, no, it was definitely, and I think I mentioned this earlier. The Parallax was the one, and I still am, but it was one that I knew I'd have to do the most work to wrap my head around the reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I struck with it so much in the center, where that type of reaction I would expect to look terrible.
Yeah.
That says a lot, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, I've kind of wanted that sort of ball where I can stay on top of the friction, just kind of walk it into the pocket, but it still goes through the pins. And urethane doesn't really do that for me on house shot. I had a pin down Hustle Link with surface that I was kind of using in that roll for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That had a really narrow range of use, and then it cracked, which was unfortunate. Thanks, coronavirus, for not bowling for 4 months. But I think the Parallax is going to be in that same vein. I'm definitely curious to see what happens as the cover settles in a little bit more as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting too, because house shots can get really tricky, because they start off easy, but then as soon as the heads start to burn, as soon as the track starts to burn and forces you left, you're not forced left like you are in a sport condition, where you can just move left and still have some tip in the middle, or still have some hook to work with in the middle of the lane. You're moving from friction straight into a giant puddle, and all of a sudden that's what traps people a lot of the time. And I have people all the time asking about, well, what can I do for carry down, or what can I do for this, or what can I do for that? And it's all related to house shot transition, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And having something like this that's still going to hook, but allows you to stay further right. And I think the problem most people try to do with carry down, or not enough hook, or too much oil, is they try to dig through it instead of tightening their angles up and playing that game. I think the Parallax is going to be able to allow you to do that, or help out with that, to keep you from opening up your angles too much when the lane's not really ready for that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I kind of know my answer already, but I'm curious to hear yours. What do you think is the outcome of the Parallax? Do you think it makes your bag? If so, where and how will you use it?
On the left side of the lane, and this is the thing, is I think I mentioned this in the review.
That's right. You filmed it left. You did it. You went lefty on yours. That's right.
Yeah, but at the same time, I watched Angel throw it, and so I can get an idea, and it's not terribly different.
I lost internet.
Oh, okay. Yep. Heckin' instability.
Heckin' interwebs.
Yeah, heckin' instability. Oh yeah, Jason, just joined your Patreon. My first one. Love hearing your opinion. Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do remember that now. I've had a couple people sign up here recently, so thanks for joining. And make sure that you sign up for Discord, because that's where all the awesome stuff happens.
Yeah, Discord's where the real fun is.
Yeah, but as far as usability goes, there's a lot of stuff that I can't throw on the left side of the lane, because it just hooks too much. Everything's too much. Even if you watch my IQ video, the Emerald, where I'm just banging it out from like fourth air or whatever and ripping it back, that didn't happen on the right side of the lane. But the Parallax is a whole lot.
You had other issues with the Emerald on the right side of the lane, but that's another.
Yeah, that's a complete anomaly. And the first one was a 1 in a million shot, and then having it happen twice in a row with different layouts, with quite different layouts, is just weird. But it looks freaking beast on the left side. But the Parallax, because it's slower, it's something that I think I'm actually going to get a whole lot of use out of when I go to tournaments, and there might be a little bit more volume, or or when I need that general kind of strength early in the kind of blend down lane. Because the first thing that happens on the left side of the lane is carry down. Most of the time, the first thing that happens with more traffic on the right side and, bigger differentials is that the heads start to burn, the track starts to burn, so you start to move left before you really hit too much carry down. But on the left side of the lane, the back ends start out so sharp to begin with that those settle down, and so I might start getting some flat hits with, I'm going to travel everywhere with the IQ Tour Solid and the Emerald, but at some certain point, those are going to start getting a little bit flat, and I don't necessarily want to go to something bigger that's going to be sharper, and so the Parallax is going to, I think it's actually going to be pretty usable on the left side of the lane. Now on the right side of the lane, again, it's a halo freaking burn, and I take that thing everywhere. It's a little bit different use because you were talking about going straight from an Astro to a Hustle Inc. Well, I go straight from a halo burn down to my pinned down high road T. So
well,
it's
you use your burn in a, I don't know if counterintuitive is the right word, but you don't like the situations where you use your burn are going to be very different from where I'd use my Parallax, I suspect.
Yeah.
Because like you set up your burn to be that kind of like the lanes are mostly trash, but you can still find some volume up front. So let me just kind of let it wade through the soup, and then once it sees friction, it kind of pulls up and just goes forward.
Yeah.
But then your speed is a lot softer than mine on the right side of the lane, so you're able to get more shape out of stuff.
And I think the Parallax would fit into kind of that zone. It would not be like a right out of the box ball because of I can't really play right of third arrow well on the right side. I've got to have some room to kind of flap and roll it. And the Parallax just doesn't quite have the shape to play on the fresh for me. But once we get a couple of games in and I do have a little bit of friction to work with, not for the hook, just for the shape. So I think it would be one of those mid-block balls, or after a couple games has happened in a tournament, or maybe game 3 in league or something like that. But that's where I would see that slotting in. And would I actually carry it around? Probably. I've got to get some more. I've got to get some more traffic on it and get some more games on it. And then we'll see what happens. Angel's going to carry hers around for a while, and I'll see what the scope of use is for her.
Yeah,
can kind of get an idea on that.
It looked pretty good for her in her video as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
For myself, like I said, it's a type of reaction that I've never really used before.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a very limited arsenal situation, at least for right now, it's probably not going to make that cut just due to pure unfamiliarity. Like if I'm taking 5+ bear and there's a lot of money on the line, I'm taking 5 that I know really well and that I can trust, and the Parallax isn't there yet. With that said, I do think it's going to be a ball where I might not use it in like a 5-man classic league where I have no choice but to get to 4th arrow by the end of practice, or else I'm not going to score at all. Like, situations like that, it is not going to make the cut for that.
Yeah.
But if I'm bowling in a, like, let's say I catch a cross where I'm not bowling with a bunch of other righties, there's less traffic on my side of the lane, or I'm in like a match play situation, and I want to keep my moves a little smaller and essentially play the EJ Tackett, smash the pocket 11 times a game and hope for the best game.
Yeah.
If I want to do that, then I think the Parallax is going to be absolutely amazing in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even in a place where I thought it wouldn't look good, it still went through the pins really well, and I think that's definitely an encouraging sign for me.
Yeah, and I think
I'm excited to test it more. Is kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of an answer to people too who say, well, this new ball just came out and it's got all this hype, but I don't see the pros throwing it on TV. Well, it takes a while for stuff to actually trickle onto the PBA Tour because those guys have to score. They have to get the best that they can out of every single frame. And so they're not just going to, oh, yeah, well, the Axiom came out. I'm just going to take a chance on that unless it's something that they actually... and that one actually got adopted pretty quick, but I think that if they have time to practice with it, and the guys that don't make the cut that's probably what the time that they use. It's like, okay, well, I didn't make the cut, so let's check this new ball out and go do a practice session after the or whatever else. I think that's kind of how that stuff begins to filter on, or they might be looking for a different look for a TV show, and the rep says, "Hey, let's give this new one a shot and see what happens if nothing else
Yeah.
looks good." So
Yeah, I think it's also a good thing to remember that what you see guys using on TV doesn't always match what they're using throughout the week because it's a different environment and the amount of lane wear and how the guys play the lanes is so much different. Like at the World Championships, watching everything on Flow Bowling throughout the week, you saw a lot of guys throwing the Axiom, you saw a lot of Phase 2s, you saw some Idols, you saw some UFOs,
mm-hmm.
and you actually saw a lot of the nuclear cell in the Phase 3 later in blocks.
Yeah.
Neither of those balls showed up on TV at all for the World Championship TV show because they never got to a situation where they needed something that week.
Mm-hmm.
Guys were circling the lane, but they were doing it with an Axiom because there was a little more of a puddle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just because you don't see something on TV doesn't mean it's being adopted.
Yeah.
Another good example of that is thinking back to the Tournament of Champions this year. I was actually up there watching some of it live, and I saw a lot of guys throwing urethane. Prather threw urethane for half the week, and then he gets to the TV show and jumps straight to fourth arrow.
Yeah.
And so, it's a very different feel. Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
I've lost internet again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it'll pop up on the screen here in a second. Yep, there it is. Internet connection is unstable.
Not sure if you lost my audio or not.
No, I'm not losing you at all. I think you're just losing me. So yeah, your stays pretty silky. So.
Aye.
Let's see. So, since we're talking about nano type stuff, and I'm not going to shut up about it, let's just go to the IQ Tour Nano Pearl. And this is, again, I won't shut up about nano Pearl stuff. And this is a pretty big booming ball, one of the most continuous balls I've ever thrown, period. And
all right, there we go.
Yep, back. Oh, yeah, you derped out there for a second. That was kind of funny.
There we go. All right, I think we're back now.
All right. But the IQ Tour Nano Pearl is... Somebody asked me, how does it compare to the Phase 2? Well, it's got kind of that same windy, continuous, kind of climbing, building momentum type look to it. It's not as strong as the Phase 2. I think it's probably three-ish boards weaker than a Phase 2, but it's got kind of a similar... It's rounder than the Phase 2, which the Phase 2 is pretty round too, but it's hard to kind of describe that kind of climbing motion that the Parallax even shares a little bit with the Phase 2. That hard arc, more so than a really round look like something like the Idol, which I think that the IQ Tour Nano Pearl is closer to sharing. There's not as much definition on the back end.
Yeah, I actually tested the Nano Pearl versus my Phase 2 today. And the Phase 2 it felt like it was a little earlier, a little more defined, and a little more rolly than the Nano Pearl, which is the Nano just kind of like it got to the spot and then it started hooking and then it never really stopped.
Yeah.
But it did that while still being pretty slow, like a fairly slow response ball.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And that's the other thing about Nano that I keep harping on is it takes longer to wind up than other stuff does, but it just doesn't. Once it starts winding up, it just doesn't stop. If you give it enough time to be continuous, it's going to go hunting for the 7-pin.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Here, let me get to
you got more video?
Yes, I'm pulling that up right now.
Cool.
There we go. Share screen.
Did it turn it off again?
I'm just making sure I'm sharing the right thing. There we go. All right, so here we go. So this is a shot playing a little bit straighter, well, straight-ish. That's like fourth arrow out to 7. I was hunting for the 7-pin off the end of the deck. And then I try moving further left and catching it more. And you can see right there, I almost face planted, and it still made the corner. Throw another shot here, get it out to 5, and it's still hooking when it gets to the pins.
Yeah.
And then I moved back right, closer to where I was with the Parallax.
Yeah.
and it picks up and rolls enough that I'm still able to essentially, face smash the pocket and get it done that way.
And
So
that,
and that's yeah, it
yeah,
was pretty impressive.
on that one that you hit the 5 board on, that's something
Yeah,
where the Emerald or the Tour Solid probably would have burned up or quit or not quite made it back.
not from that deep with how the lanes were at that point in time. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with that. It's that extra bit of positive traction that you get from the Nano and the cover. I think it's gonna be a game changer for the series.
Yeah, and then just the blending of the lane too. There was several, and there's been a couple people that commented on my video already saying, "Oh God, it looked like he hated that shot." Well, yeah, I hardcore bailed on a couple of them, and where typical reactives would have hit friction and stood up and gone straight, this still actually blended it and pulled up a little bit more than it should have. So bad shot, good result.
Yeah.
But I think again, and watching Angel's video too. I mean, she likes the Emerald. She's got a couple of the old IQ Tour Nanos. She doesn't actually have a Tour Solid, which is weird because she likes all things IQ and has never had a Tour Solid. Actually, never.
That is kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah. That is pretty weird. I think she mentioned at some point wanting to. I think that's one of those on the list. when we put together our last order here a couple weeks ago, we had to kick a few things off because it kind of exceeded kind of exceeded the budget a little bit. So
Internets.
yep. I don't know why it should be hooked up to. I don't know what this is actually. Oh yeah, okay. Let me change this. It's hooked up to our extension upstairs for some reason. Yeah, this is going to kick James off, so. Alright, so that's connected and secured now, so I'm going to restart this. Oh, you're back?
There we go. I think we're back.
Okay. I changed, for some reason, the internet was hooked up to the extension upstairs instead of the router that's literally on the other side of the wall right here, so we shouldn't have any more hiccups.
Nice.
So.
That should help.
Alright, we're going to go back to this, and we're going to get all this sorted back out.
Okay.
But, heck yeah. Alright, we're back, and we're not going to have any more interruptions. So I was talking about, we were talking about Angel and the IQ Tour Solid, and her never having one before, and so yeah, that was one of the ones that got kind of, it's not necessarily a need right now, and so we kind of exceeded the budget, and so a couple things had to get left off, and so we did not get her an IQ Tour Solid, but with as good as everything else looks for her, and she doesn't generally have trouble with stuff continuing because she's kind of got that weird voodoo roll. It's almost like a lower rev Brad Angelo type thing where she spins it a little bit, but also has a pretty high angle of rotation too. She gets around it and kind of spins it at the same time, so stuff usually peels off the spot pretty good for her. But I mean, she had several, I don't know how many she had in that video, where the Tour Nano Pearl was going through the 8-pin. I mean, it was just picking up and hunting for the 7. So, yep, my poor bank account, Daniel, definitely.
Yeah, and that's something else I think that I do want to highlight with the Nano Pearl is it wasn't the greatest reaction today in testing, but strong covers, smooth, round, that just doesn't work at this place because there's not much volume. And what volume is there spread out over 50 feet of lane. So, like, I can't remember the last time I threw my phase 2 for score in that building, period. And I throw that ball everywhere. So that's, I really want to test the Tour Nano Pearl more in other places. Like, I want to get in a place that's got a little more volume up front, a little more defined friction down lane, so I can get a little more shape out of the lane and see what the ball does with that, which I think it'll be really fun in that situation.
Yeah. Get an emergency 20-foot Ethernet cord so you're not on Wi-Fi. Well, unfortunately, the computer that I'm got him on Zoom with does not have an Ethernet port. Now I'm streaming. The computer I'm using to stream, I actually have 3 laptops sitting here. I need to get a dedicated desktop down here so that I don't have 3 three. And this is a really wild look. If you could see this, I've got a speaker that James is on here that's sitting on top of a shoebox that's on my desk, and then my laptop that I'm monitoring the chat on is on top of a box of dog treats. And then I've got kind of a corner-shaped desk, and I got my streaming laptop over here, and I got James staring at me right here, and I've got my other laptop sitting here, and it's all kind of rigged up, and there's cords going everywhere. So
my laptop's sitting on top of an Amazon box on my desk right now, so the
yeah.
webcam's the correct height. So
it's the kind of stuff that works.
Right there with you. Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what. I've never thrown a Nano Pearl. What does it turn into? A shine. The thing about Nano is it doesn't really change a whole lot. Some other balls, especially something like a Phase 2, we talk about being the asymmetric Phase 2 before it kind of calms down. You've got to get 30 games of lane shine on the Phase 2 before it gets reasonably usable. Nano doesn't really change that much, and that's something that James was asking me about in regards to like the Halo or the just generally stuff like what should I expect when the Parallax settles in to begin, or for example. And my Nano stuff just does not really settle in. Especially the shiny stuff, it just doesn't really change as much as some other stuff might. Like an Idle Pearl, for example. It's pretty sharp and snappy, but once you get 20 or 30 games on it, it turns into a Marvel Pearl. It's just got that kind of smooth, buttery roll to it. But my Nano stuff, I've got a ton of games on my Marvel Max SE, and it hasn't really changed. My Halo Burn's got 100, 150, 200 games on it by now, and it's still doing reasonably what it was when it came out of the box. Or we were discussing that it might be so slow of a change that it's just hard to really pick up on, where other balls, they change a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, or like the Phase 2 goes from the strongest ball coming out of Utah when it's fresh to 20 games later it's an IQ Tour turned up to 11.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah.
And yeah, Nick B just commented, I thought we were joking. He thought we were joking about the Phase 2 break-in. No, we 100% no joke.
Yeah. No, probably 30.
Whenever I tell someone to get a Phase 2, I say, do not judge this ball for the first 15 games out of the box.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's such a different ball. Once it settles, that cover's amazing though.
Yeah, but with the Nano, and
I've drilled 7 of them. So
that does bring up an interesting point. Keep an eye on your Parallax, and then the IQ Tour Nano Pearl is going to shine a little bit naturally, and it's going to get a little bit longer and a little bit more responsive. But the overall reaction characteristics, I would bet, are not going to change much, if any at all, because it's just such a kind of a dominant. So let's bring this up. Like your Axiom, you've got quite a few games on your Axiom. How much has that really changed, or has it not changed that much since you?
It didn't really change much. It definitely wasn't like normal reactive resin. Like a really good example of this is the Daredevil that I drilled before I came out to Kansas City last month.
Yeah.
I remember you and Riley both mentioned that it was like the most responsive Daredevil you'd ever seen in your life.
Uh-huh.
And then one of my bags decided to kick the can when I was flying back from Ohio. And my Daredevil got chunked up pretty, like, small scratches, but all over the bowling ball. So then I put it on a spinner, knock it down to 360, take it back up to, I did 1,000 grit plus polish on top of it.
Yeah.
And it slowed down, like the shape felt the same, but it slowed down tremendously. So that was definitely there. The Axiom didn't really do that. It still feels about the same in terms of response time. And it's funny, actually, to kind of circle back to something you mentioned earlier. You said that Storm has NEX as their strongest cover. Same layout, same surface. My Phase 2 is 2 feet earlier than my Axiom.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just weirdness with me, but I think a combination of just getting a few games on that cover plus learning the ball more, it kind of settled into something other than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So the settling definitely was different. It didn't feel like it slowed down much. It's just kind of changed. Like maybe add another foot of length, but that's about it.
Uh-huh. And I would expect the same to happen with the Parallax and the IQ Tour Nano Pearl. So,
Yeah.
all right, I think we beat that horse a little bit. Why don't we talk? Oh yeah, I'm at a drink, so the wife brought me more drink.
Nice.
Well, this one was left in the
Oh.
computer room, so that's just the remainder of that. So I'll put a new can in the fridge.
Okay. LaCroix sparkling water likes naming their stuff really odd, weird names. So this is Pastic.
Okay.
Yeah, Pastic. I think I don't know if you can even see
Interesting.
that on the screen there, but
Yeah, no, I can see it.
Pastic.
Huh.
I don't understand.
Sure
Their grapefruit is called pamplemousse. It's literally called pamplemousse. Out of my fish mouth koozie.
Nice.
So, so we got
One,
we got
I guess, just quick interlude for a question that I think it's actually this is from Mega Drumhead. Is there a good ball out or coming out to replace the original idol and the original lock, or give us something close to it? Idol is going nowhere as far as I'm.
no, and especially
far as I
because I think it's one of those things like the Phase 2 was close to.
Click remind later.
Oh.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think all right, I forgot what we were talking about. Phase 2.
Something out or coming out to replace the original idol and the original lock.
Yeah,
one's
so-
really easy, one's tough.
So the phase 2 had a kind of a similar problem because nobody really liked the phase. Well, I think there was plenty of people that liked the phase, but it was kind of a very hit or miss type promotion type thing where the phase was this pearl ball that didn't act anything like a pearl ball.
Yeah.
And so it was really hit or miss. Well, when the Phase 2 came out, everybody kind of looked at it like they're looking at the Belmo balls now. It's like, oh, well, I don't want one of those for some reason. But they're like, well, I don't want another Phase because the first one was bad enough, so I don't want this one. But after about a year, it caught some traction on tour, and then all of a sudden everybody was throwing it, and then I think it was really close to getting discontinued, but then it started getting traction with tournament bowlers and whatever else, and now they're not going anywhere. I think the same thing kind of happened with the Idol, where it was like, okay, well, this is a big hook in a box ball, and you're not going to be able to use it very much, and you never really saw it on tour until here about within the last year. All of a sudden, Prather's winning stuff with it, and it's on TV all the time. Prather's using it, Simonson's using it, Danielle McEwen's using it.
Simo never really stopped using it, to be fair. He throws nothing but big block symmetrics. Like, it's funny. I bowled a regional, or actually one of the extra frame events, almost 3 years ago. I remember Simo was like a couple pairs down from me, and I think as I was moving pairs, I took a peek in his bag. I think I don't think the idol was out at that point, but he had like a Haywire, a Phase 2, a Daredevil. I want to say like an IQ Tour Solid. It was literally 5 symmetrics and a plastic ball.
Yeah.
And that was all he had. That was all he had out of the paddock with him.
Yeah, and so I think that the Idol is going to be the same type of thing where it's very visible on TV now, and so when people go to buy a big hook and ball like that, they're thinking, okay, well, I see Idol on TV all the time, and so I don't think it's going anywhere for a while, and I think that's actually why the Idol Pro, which is the most recent Idol to get released, got discontinued already, and the Idol Pearl and the Idol are still there. So I think that the Idol is going to be around for a while, and then what was the other one that got asked?
The original lock.
The original lock.
That was real easy to answer until about, I don't know, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. The physics. And actually, the Halo Vision is not terribly far off, but it's been discontinued
It's stronger
too.
and slower, but it's also discontinued.
Now,
the original physics is the closest.
What I think you could actually do, though, is if you took a nuclear cell to like 1,000 first and then hit it with a 3,000 pad, I think it would be reasonably close because the Rad-X core kind of has a very similar shape on the lane to it. So
Yeah, I could
would
see that.
I
That's
would
actually
think
pretty good.
I
Yeah.
would think a nuke with surface would be, it wouldn't be the ball, but it would be awful close.
That's about as close as you can get aside from hunting down a physics
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or paying $250 for a blank block. But
So
yeah,
yeah, so I don't think that the idol needs replaced. Now, if it does get discontinued, Storm just put out the Axiom, which is not the same. I think the Axiom has a little bit more definition. It's not quite as round, but I think it's similar enough to where you could get away with it.
Yeah, the Axiom, it's a punchier idol. That was immediately what it felt like to me.
And I think the proof is in the pudding with it being adopted on tour so soon and seeing so many of them right before the shutdown, right after they came out.
The very first event that was available on tour was the World Series of Bowling, and all of the Storm Rotor guys were throwing that ball.
Yeah.
So it looked really good. I'm going to defer to you on this one since you're a bigger fan of this ball than I am. Monkey Nuts was wondering what ball after break-in would roll like a new idle pearl.
Now that's an interesting question. What I had, maybe no. The phase 3 cover is so much stronger. From a reaction standpoint, that would actually be a tricky one because everybody asking me about like a Marvel Pearl. I say, well, just put 30 games on an idle Pearl and you will have a fresh Marvel Pearl for the next 150 or 200.
Yeah.
But something that breaks into a fresh idle Pearl would almost have to be something asymmetric. It might have to be something like an astrophysics.
Actually, yeah, Astro. That's probably mine. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. So yeah, once that settles down, because the idle Pearl is pretty jumpy out of the box, and the Astro, even after the Astro settles in, it's still pretty jumpy. So
yeah, it's pretty defined, pretty rolly, but it's still. Yeah, I think you and I have talked previously about how the what's it called, the atomic core, I think, from the physics line.
Yeah, the atomic
feels like it's got a lot of those same like windy, climby characteristics as the velocity core from the phase 2.
Yeah, it's just punchy.
For it being a big block ASIM, it is more continuous of a core than most, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to go back up here. There's something caught my eye from Nate Henderson here. Let's see. If you keep some surface on it, doesn't really change. If you keep some surface on that Tour Nano Pearl, I really don't think it's going to change. And even if you let it lane shine, I still don't think it's going to change that much. And then Brian Hirsch mentioned I didn't see much change in the Axiom. Yeah, it gets a little bit longer, a little bit quicker, but nano stuff tends to it's a pretty dominant reaction. So I think it's one of those things that's, again, like I said, it's dominant. It's very, I just lost the word, but anyway, it's dominant.
It's an overpowering characteristic.
Yeah, it's very familiar, very recognizable. All right. Are any of you surprised by the retirement of the Pro Motion? Because I am. Nope, not a bit. Yeah. And that's not because I don't like it, because I have one righty. I still have the same one righty that I drilled a year ago, and usually I'm on number 2 or 3 by now because I like fresh covers. But I drilled one lefty. It's not going anywhere. My wife has one. We bought 2 of them after it got discontinued, so I've got a backup. She's got a backup. I really like it, but it's a very niche reaction that it's either going to be great for you or it's probably going to be really bad for you. And I think that
I was in the really bad category because I throw it hard and I like to hook the lane. So that's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah, it's the promotion's like stronger urethane. I think people that give it the 50 games to break it in. But what's going to happen is it's going to hook a bunch out of the box, and then it's going to shine up, and it's going to get soft down lane, and then people are going to try to put surface back on it, and then it's going to get bad. It's going to act like legitimate, real pitch black urethane. So, yeah. So I am not terribly surprised, but like Chad and I kind of discussed, I'm a big fan of it. Angel really likes hers. I like kind of whomping on stuff and having a slower back end response to begin with, so it was great for me on the right side. I needed some friction to work with, and then again on the left side, I just need to tame down the friction response and the back end motion, period. So that's like perfect. It's urethane without actually having to throw urethane.
Yeah. Joe Brennan, who's one of our Discord subs for
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Wild idea of the day with tech coming out where they're taking chunks out of cores to simulate weight holes and stuff. Things like the Parallax
Yeah.
core, the Catalyst core from the Crux series,
And
etc.
UFO, yeah.
UFO, that too. What are the chances that one of the manufacturers makes a ball that has a right-handed or left-handed core that's shaped to simulate things like weight holes and such? Like, I think he's saying more specifically like a righty core and a lefty core of the same ball.
Yeah, I would say 0% like you think it is, but it's definitely something to think about. But it's kind of why they stopped making left-handed and right-handed SST shoes and just made the pads interchangeable on both shoes, because making both right-handed and left-handed stuff, there's not as much of a market for the lefty stuff. And so I think that they try to design cores that just based on how you drill them, I think that you can get away with not having a specifically righty or lefty drilled or a lefty designed core. So what would be a better step down for the MVP? Pearl, PRB, or wrap?
I'm assuming it means PBR.
Yeah, PBR wrap. Is the wrap and MVP Pearl close to being the same cover? I think, yes, they're both VTC. I think that VTC 20 is stronger than the VTC 19 that's on the MVP Pearl. I'm pretty sure it's VTC 19 on the Pearl, or maybe
I'm checking right now.
Maybe it was 19 hybrid on the MVP, but 20 Pearl on the
19 Pearl. 19 it came out
Pearl.
last year.
And some people are saying that the VTC 20 is even a step above, and that's they've been doing that across the board. I mean, the E-Trax 18 that's on the Idle Pearl, the 19. I don't think we saw E-Trax Pearl 19, but
nope, we did not stateside at least.
Yeah, the nuclear cell cover, even though obviously it's an asymmetric, but the nuclear cell cover, the difference between the E-Trax P18 and P20 is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, it's insane.
I mean, and they did the same thing with the VTC cover stocks, because they weren't that strong when they came out on like the Hustles, but now they're a whole lot stronger, and especially when you have the hybrid version on the MVP, going from VTC 18 that was on, I think, the hybrid Hustle, with the Hustle HYB.
HSB, you mean?
Well, the HYB and the HSB. I think the HYB is when VTC first came out.
Oh, that's right, it was. Yeah. Oh, that's right, it was the same cover on both. Yeah, You're right.
But yeah, going from that to, and even though the MVP core is a little bit stronger, again, that's the MVP of the first HP5 ball. Just the strengths for the last couple of years have just gone nuts. So I think that the wrap and the MVP Pearl have the same formula. But what were you gonna say?
Sorry, I was gonna just crack the obligatory HP5 joke for the MVP. Because that ball was ridiculous.
So yeah, I think that the wrap is not going to be as early and rolly as the MVP Pearl. I think the big thing about the MVPs is for some reason and somehow they're really early and chuggy and grindy and whatever else. And I think that just the differences, even though the covers are going to be similar, I think that the wrap is quite a bit cleaner and flippier. It's already on back order. I mean, it looks like an astrophysics though. So yeah, mine didn't even ship. I got the Electrifies and the PBR, but I didn't get the wrap. It's already on back order. So.
I saw Ken and McFalls did a video on the wrap, and it actually looked really, really good. Like you mentioned it looks like an Astro visually. It kind of reacted like what you would imagine a baby Astro would be like in the first place.
And so that's fantastic.
Yeah, that actually. I want to order another really weak shiny ball to drill up to tinker with before I come out for KC Open in September, and I'm essentially kind of in between the Electrify Pearl and the Hustle Wrap for that ball.
And that's what I'm also interested in too, because Reactor on the Electrify Pearl I think is quite a bit weaker than VTC 20 is going to be, and so I am going to compare those two, and I think that the wrap is going to be quite a bit more dynamic, if nothing else, despite the numbers being ridiculously close. Because I think the Electrifies are 251030,
Yeah,
And the Hustle
253030 for the hustles.
Yeah. So yeah,
they're
even though the
almost
Hustles
identical.
have a little bit higher RG, I think that reactor cover is quite a bit weaker than what's on the Hustles, and so it should be really interesting to see the difference.
Yeah. So kind of getting back on topic a little bit, at least.
Yeah,
Question
yeah.
mark, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, we haven't
see-
talked about the trend yet either, so
yeah, that too. Let's answer Nate's question and then get
Yeah.
into the trend.
okay.
Nate was wondering, and I'll defer to you on this since you have a lot more experience with it. Um, Talking about dominant cover characteristics. How long can Nano be dominant in a cover stock? You said you have a ton of games on the burn, and it still feels really close to factory.
Yeah. I have a lot of nano stuff. And this is even going to solid and hybrid stuff. We have had a couple hybrid NRGs in the physics and the all road and the supersonic, and then there are some other covers that have nano in them. The phase 2 has, which is weird because it does have nano in it, but there's a pretty big delta between new phase 2 and 50 game phase 2, which is a little bit interesting there.
The phase 2 is a special case. It's got some other tricks beyond just nano in the cover, though.
The idle
The GI
is
series covers, those are nano.
those are
So that
nano
means the
based.
Omega Crux is in there.
So yeah, the Sherlock actually had some nano in it too. Microtracks on the Roto side, that's code for NRG, and so stuff like the idle and the UFO are also nano covers. And so the stronger something is to begin with, the bigger of a difference you're going to see from new to 50 games of lane shine. The Wild Streak also has some nano in it too.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
Sure tracks. So yeah, it does have a little bit of nano in that cover if I am not mistaken. But specifically the Nano Pearl stuff stays like it is a whole lot longer than other Pearl stuff. And again, I think that's the big thing that you're going to see with the Parallax, because I'm pretty sure it's got some NEX in it or some nano or something.
It's got NEX in it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because that's what it feels like. But yeah, as far as the Nano Pearl stuff, the Marvel Max SE, the Angel's got the code Extreme, the Super Idol that I had, the Halo Burn. I've got a Marvel Max Force up there staring at me that I'm probably going to put holes in.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, the pearls seem to really hold up a whole lot longer, and I haven't really exhausted my Halo Burn or anything else that I've had shiny nano cover on. So, How? I thought this was live. This is live. What are you talking about?
He's probably replying to Joe, and I think Joe joined late.
Oh, okay.
And probably rebounded.
I'm actually about a half hour behind on the stream right now, so I haven't heard any response. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, nice.
We're live, but he's not live.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the trend.
Yeah, let's go trend.
Yeah. So I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, so it's probably the least interesting one just on paper because it's R2S Pearl, and we've seen that all over the place. And there's several R2S Pearl balls in the line right now. We've got the Astra, the IQ Emerald, and the High Road Pearl. And then we had R2S Pearl on the Sonic. We had it on the Code Black. And so we've seen a lot of R2S Pearl on big cores here recently. But because I like the ProMotion so much, that piston core is a little bit different animal. It's closer to something like the Velocity in the Phase 2, but it doesn't take as long to wind up as the Velocity core does. I think it's a lot quicker response, but it's just ridiculously continuous. And so I was kind of excited. I think I've said a couple times, like when the astrophysics came out, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't, because I was hyped up for NRG Pearl. As soon as we had NRG Hybrid on the physics, I'm thinking, man, can we get to the Pearl physics so I can have my NRG Pearl? And then it was R2S, and I was kind of disappointed. But then it ended up being the astrophysics, and so
it ended up being one of the best shiny ASM storms.
Yeah, so we completely forgot about that. But in this case, People have asked me, what do you want on the piston core? But when it was announced it was R2S Pearl, I thought, great, this is absolutely perfect because this core is amazing. I really love this core, and having something like R2S Pearl on it ensures that the core is going to be around for a while. Instead of being like the dual drive core, I don't think we'll ever see that again because the Timeless was kind of meh, and then the drive was kind of meh after that. And so anything else that comes out with the dual drive core in it, people are going to remember the Timeless and the drive, and they're going to say no. Flipping.
I already know some people that have said that.
Yes.
Who will remain nameless here, but I know people who have said that.
Yeah, but flipping it around this quickly, saying, okay, we understand that the promotion was kind of hit and miss with people, but this core is amazing, and so we've got to do something to kind of flip the script. I think it's going to be a phase 2 type situation where, when the phase 2 came out, people are like, oh, nope, had one phase, don't want another one. And if they would have gone with a different cover on this and it might have not worked out quite as well, they might have said, okay, well, the piston, it's got the piston core in, it's got that stupid core in, I'm never touching that again. So I think that they flipped the script with this and saying, okay, well, we know what R2S Pearl is going to do on it, and it's amazeballs.
Yeah, so I know this is something we've talked about quite a bit where bowling math doesn't really work.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, I think this is one place where it definitely does, and it's a very simple equation.
Mm-hmm.
You have the astrophysics, you have the high road pearl, average those two, and you get the trend.
Yeah.
That's literally what this ball is.
Yeah.
Here, let me share my screen real quick, and I'll show you a few shots.
Hercules.
Yeah. So I will say with this, as a kind of a preamble, I can't stand R2S with factory polish on it. R2S Pearl with factory polish is just no.
Uh-huh.
So this is the shots I'm going to show after I touched it with a 2000 pad by hand, just a light little scuff to just kind of crack the polish essentially.
Casey Murphy.
So, yeah. Hey, I did 1,000 gridded trends. Leave me alone. Or Parallax. Leave me alone. So these are the first few shots after I touched it with that 2,000 grit pad.
Chalk up a Parallax.
So you can see right there, it gets to the spot, goes through the pins really nicely.
Uh-huh.
This next shot, I think I kind of parallel left and don't get it to the friction. Goes a little long, which is that high road pearl characteristic I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then this shot right here, I throw it from the same spot, but I get it to the friction, and it kind of pulls up and goes to the pins a whole lot better than it did previously.
Yeah.
And so, kind of seeing those traits, it definitely, and I compared it to my astrophysics today, it's definitely a little longer, especially before it gets into the roll phase, but even before it gets into the hook phase versus my astrophysics, which I'm attributing that solely to core differences, essentially.
Yeah.
But then, it does feel like that when my Astro is maybe just a little too early in flat down lane, I feel like I can just go to the trend and get right back to striking.
Yeah, it's an extremely continuous core, and I think that it's something that's going to be around for a while now. And I think I even said it in my review, and I probably shouldn't have said this, but I think that seeing the Belmo logo on it and saying, oh no, not another Belmo ball, I'm not touching this one, it's just freaking ignorant. I mean, there's no other way to say it, and I probably could say it more nicely, but this is a completely different animal. I mean, the ProMotion was a completely different animal from the Timeless and the Drive too, but this is have it with the ProMotion having spec on it. You kind of, after the Crux Prime, you kind of knew it's like, well, this is probably going to be about the same deal. It's going to be pretty hit or miss for people. But this is a can't miss type deal. It's going to be a stunning turn of events if somebody does not match up with the trend. It's just going to be like a weird blip on the radar. And it's like, okay, we're just going to ignore this. But it's going to be amazing for the vast majority of people on the vast majority of regular league shots.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I definitely it's one of the balls where it's like I can see a lot of the value of it, and again, it's one that I would like to try in a different environment than where I was testing today. It also is one where I'm almost thinking of getting another one and trying it pinned down with like a deep thumb, because I think it might be really, really good as kind of a offset shape type of ball versus the rest of my bag. Get something with a big block inside of R2S. Inside of R2S, this symmetric is something I've been wanting for a long time. I know we've talked about that in Discord some.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What's up?
Psychosis was wondering, and I didn't have a great experience with this today, but I have just low 500 rev rate and a lot of speed, and I'd already
Yeah.
trashed the lane. How is the trend with straighter angles?
I think
And so I think you and Angel have a better grip on that than I do.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that you would have to have a lower rev rate because it does want to pick up and continue, and so it's one of those things where you would have to have a lower rev rate, higher speed, more oil, something like that. But it's going to give people that don't typically get, number one, a lot of back end motion out of something or a lot of continuation out of something either. It's going to be a big plus for them. Without going to something asymmetric like an Astro that's going to get down and go. And that's the interesting thing about lower rev rates or higher speeds, is that they can get trapped with their angles really quickly if they try to go with too strong of a ball. And so if you go with something like an Astro, it's a little too flippy for you, but something like an IQ Emerald that rolls up earlier but doesn't quite have the punch you need down lane, something like the Trend is going to fit perfectly in there. It's not going to be overwhelmingly strong to the point where you're going to have to open up your angles and cause issues there, but it's going to give you punch and continuation that you don't normally that you don't normally see out of a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, and I think that curltails or dovetails.
Yeah, dovetails, I think.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, close enough. Nick P made a comment just a few minutes ago. He said R2S is why he's interested in the Trend. He loves his Astro.
Yeah.
Was gonna get an Emerald, but then wanted to hear more about the Trend once he saw his R2S Pearl. So I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. Astro versus Trend versus Emerald. I think whether you want to go from Astro to Trend or Astro to Emerald kind of depends on your overall lane play philosophy.
Yeah, because the Emerald doesn't have near the differential, and I think that core is continuous, but it takes longer to wind up and be continuous. And so if you generally like rounder, slower shapes, or you have a big rev rate, I mean, the Emerald works really great for you, and somehow the Astro also does. I think you have to add angle for the Astro to
I have to play completely different parts of the lane, but one of those is usually striking.
Yeah.
For me. That's kind of how that works.
But I think that between the Emerald, and we were talking about this earlier, I think, like you said, the Emerald and the Trend and the Astro have similar hook potentials, but the zones on the lane that they play, the Emerald you're going to be using from straighter angles a whole lot of the time. The Astro is going to be get deep and fling it, and the Trend can fit kind of right there in the middle. And so I think that while the Trend and the Emerald have similar hook potentials, they have different zones on the lane. And this is something that actually, before I knew that this stuff was coming out, we were actually going to have an Arsenal optimization stream that's still going to happen at some point, where we talk about just because a Trend and an Idle Pearl, which are even fairly similar, there's still different zones on the lane, and so it's not necessarily like, well, the IQ Emerald is a step down from the Trend maybe, but the zones that they're going to play successfully on the lane are going to be fairly different. So it's not like you can just be throwing a Trend and then stay in the same place and drop, ball down to an Emerald or something like that. So
yeah, but you can be a weirdo like me and go straight from astrophysics to hustle link.
Hustle link.
Because logic.
Yeah. Well, shapes.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm big on shape. Obviously, I like a lot of it, but.
Hashtag back end? Question mark?
Yeah. Hashtag back end.
Got a question from Nubs Get Dubs, which I think might kind of fall into one of the balls we've been talking about.
Yeah.
What ball could I add to an arsenal that includes a Supersonic, an Idol Pro, and an IQ Emerald? I generally haven't had good luck with asymmetrical cores in the past. Thanks.
Well,
so I'm going to read between the lines here first off.
Mm-hmm.
I will bet you $1 that Nubs Get Dubs is a two-hander.
Yeah.
Because a lot of two-handers tend to be more rev dominant. And rev dominant players that have higher rev rates don't tend to need that much help from the core.
Yeah.
And that's the same reason that I never carry a UFO around with me, is I don't need that much help.
All right, so what
I
ball...
have my theory. Let's hear yours.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me, because those type of balls would be good. And the Supersonic, despite being really, really strong, is good for higher rev rate, higher speed bowlers because it controls the lane so well. However, I mean, you could just get rid of the supersonic and add 2 balls. Get rid of the supersonic and buy 2 good balls.
Well, let's say for the sake of hypothesis that Nubs is one of the
Yeah.
people that actually likes that ball.
Yeah, so Supersonic
Which,
Idle Pro.
sidebar, I wish I had tried the supersonic. I missed out on that one before it got discontinued.
Yeah, so so let's look at that. I think that a Parallax would be, if you haven't had good luck with asymmetrical stuff in the past, I think the Parallax would be the thing to really test that, because I think that would completely change things there. And it would give you.
I agree. If you want a safer option, I was thinking an IQ Solid,
Yeah.
or maybe a Nano Pearl.
Uh-huh.
But another low diff option to go along with the high diff of the Supersonic and the Idol Pro, but something that's got a little more dig to the cover than the Emerald.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thought.
And that's, speaking of, we didn't really talk about where the Tour Nano Pearl was going to fit in an arsenal. And it is.
Yeah, we kind of skipped that with the trend, too.
It is kind of, well, yeah, but it is kind of odd, because the IQ still has that, the Tour Nano Pearl still has that IQ shape, but it hooks quite a bit more than either of the IQs. And so I think I was talking with Chad where he said that, it's not Axiom or Phase 2 strong, but it's definitely stronger than the IQs, but it's not quite as quick. It's not quite as quick as something like an Idol Pro or some of those other things with that have bigger differentials than this ball does. So it fits really nicely in there as a ball down from an Axiom and a ball up from an IQ Tour Solid.
Yeah, it feels like, honestly, the more I think about it, the more the IQ Nano Pearl feels like a straight, like, medium, like, plain vanilla everything. Like, it's really, like, it does absolutely nothing exciting.
That's what
it's kind of in the middle of literally everything in the rest of the entire product line.
I think that's what the same thought I had with the High Road Nano, is that it just did kind of everything. It didn't. There wasn't one reaction characteristic you could really pick out or point out. So, yeah, I would say that, yeah, you could go with, yeah, so I think a Parallax if you want to try something ASIM, or the IQ Tour Nano Pearl if you want to kind of go to the well and go with what you know already works.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
You think a pin down all road would be any good? I mean, it really depends. I've actually been thinking about trying another all-road lefty, because it didn't really go that great righty, and it was one of those things where it never finished hard enough down lane, or it never finished as hard as I expected it to. It looks like it's winding up, and you're thinking NRG hybrid, and it's going to hook, and then just never really punched down lane. And so it was one of those things that it just was a little bit too confusing for me, or just hard for me to wrap my head around or get used to, which is kind of unusual. Most of the time I can wrap my head around it. Whether or not it actually works is a different story, but I can at least get the idea, and that one I just never clicked with that one. So
yeah. Here's a really interesting question. I actually think the answer might be yes. Swift Cookies Riley asked, IQ Tour Nano Pearl, is that the Venom Shock?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is too.
Yeah, because the Venom Shock is kind of that middling. You can use it on anything from really any angle, and the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, I would have to say yes. So that's really, thanks, Riley. That's an interesting point.
Yeah, I hadn't
like
thought
that.
about that, but that's a good one.
So yeah, I'm going to use that in a future video.
Yeah. The bowling fix. Yeah.
Well, it depends. I think that's. I think, yeah, if he's on as the bowling fix, it's probably Corey. Haven't drilled a ball in, and Corey is a two-hander. Drill a trend or a Nano Pearl. You would have more fun with the trend probably, but the Nano Pearl, for the way that you throw the ball, would just be ridiculous. Absolutely freaking bananas ridiculous. The trend is fun, and like Chad said, it's not really designed for two-handers because it's going to go down, it's going to turn sideways, and so there's going to be an abundance of shape.
Well, but it's got the Belmo logo on it.
Yeah, it's got the Belmo one, yeah.
I'm
Marketing.
trolling.
But yeah, the trend is going to be an abundance of back end, so it's going to be really fun to throw. But as far as effectiveness for higher rev rates, the IQ Tour Nano Pearl is going to be some ish you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mentioned to friends that throwing the Axiom was super easy and compared to the Venom Shock. I think the Axiom's a big Venom Shock.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
They're kind of familiar. And as you break the Axiom in, it doesn't really change a whole bunch, but it actually plays on drier conditions a lot better than you'd think it would be. But the IQ Tour Nano Pearl is pretty dead nuts on Venom Shock type stuff. So, Belmo spare balls are worth 20 pins, I thought. I don't know, I'll have to ask the wife because she's got a zillion of them now. She just got her black Belmo balls in. I might have to get her to find... Yeah, so Angel, if you're paying attention, 15 seconds later because we're on a delay. Basically caught up now. The way your guys are talking about the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, I'm tempted to pre-order too. Yeah. What did James say? Bet good?
Yeah, bet good.
So...
I will say I'm looking forward to getting some lane shine on my Nano Pearl.
Yeah.
To get a little more projection, a little more response out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll increase its range of use for me, especially on house shot.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking forward to getting some shine on mine too, so it'll get down the lane a little bit easier, so it'll be a little bit tamer, so I can use it more on the left side than because I had to get pretty deep before I was throwing it comfortably. I think if you watch in the video, the rev rate was a whole lot lower, and the speed was higher from playing closer to the ditch, and it was just kind of half dead-handing it to get it down the lane. But once I could get in and rip on it without it turning sideways, yeah, it was a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So hopefully with some shine on it, that'll help. So
Arrow out wanted to know what our favorites were of the three new balls. Luke, you obviously sounded super excited on the Nano Pearl.
Yeah.
Just kind of a quick summary of which one you're liking the most right now.
Yeah, I need to put some more time on the Parallax, and I actually kind of remembered what I was supposed to be doing lefty the other day. So if you watch through my IQ Tour Nano Pearl review, like the first half of the video was all filmed a couple weeks ago. Well, the back half with the Emerald footage at gauge and then the IQ Tour Nano Pearl footage at gauge, so the kind of the end of the video, those were actually filmed yesterday. And so my few specific little mechanical tricks that I remembered kind of upped my versatility, up the rev rate a little bit, and helped up the speed. So once I was able to get in and womp on it, which I really get, that's why most of the video was from straighter, even though the balls are hooking too much. I just didn't have the angles or whatever else to get that deep and make it look good. But now that I kind of remembered what I was doing, that's why I was able to get deep and womp on the stuff. So that's a little interesting if you go back and pay a little bit closer attention. Yeah. Man. Hercules. All right. Yeah, Angel's going to pull out one of these clear black Belmo balls
Okay. That's what I was trying
that
to
she
figure out
got.
While she does that,
yeah.
I would say my answer is the Parallax, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
That's the one where and I think I mentioned this to you when I was first watching the videos. I was like, what is this ball? It's like,
Yeah.
it gets through the fronts, but then it's like slow and rolling and almost walking up to the pocket instead of climbing or anything else like that. So what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, and especially because...
And then I throw it and I can't stop. Number one, I can't stop hitting the pocket with it. Number two, most of the time I'm striking. And I'm like, hole. So that's the one where it's like I still need to learn the ball more. Definitely not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but that thing was a blast today.
Which is really interesting because the few times, like I sent you a Crux Prime, this was actually before you were on with Storm, so I sent you a Crux Prime to try out because I thought you're going to love this because I loved it, and then I convinced you to drill a pin down idle pearl, and that didn't work. Yeah, So when I got the Parallax and I got it out, and I'm like, okay, well, this is another one of those reactions that it looks like at surface value that James isn't going to like.
This one, when I was listing all the ones I had.
Yeah, but at surface value, it's like, well, this is kind of slow and blah, and so it's one of those things that you're not going to like. But I watched Angel throw it, and then I threw it, and I'm like, this is Nano Pearl type stuff, and I think this is going to flip the script a little bit. I think he's actually going to like it, despite on paper it not really, or on video really, it not passing the eye test, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, here's the black Belmo ball.
Ooh,
So,
nice.
yeah. So this is the black Belmo ball overseas. She got 2 of them. She also has that white Belmo ball that she paid Tawny a bunch of money for.
The OG.
Yeah, the OG, triple OG. We're hopefully going to get all these signed.
Not all these.
Yeah.
No,
Huh?
these,
Oh.
the black ones are getting holes.
Oh, she's gonna drill She's gonna drill these. We're gonna have him sign the expensive one that's got the glitter in it.
Yeah, the white one is getting signed. These are to throw.
Okay.
I'm putting, actually, you're going to put holes in these.
Yeah. Yeah, I can put holes in those on my brand new.
Not right now. These are going to sit pretty
Yeah, I
cool.
know. Yeah, I know. Because yeah, that other one doesn't have a whole lot of $500 spare ball. Interesting. And then yeah, as far as I think my favorite of the new ones is the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, which is really interesting because I remember talking to you about it to begin with and thinking, oh God, what have they done? Because you took an early and slow core and then you put an early and slow cover on it, and I thought, well, I was worried it was going to be pukey and that people were going to think, oh, this is Nano Pearl, yuck. But it's completely the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't even know how this is working out. But it's just amazeballs, and I did like initially I liked the Parallax, and I still like the Parallax, and I want some more lane time with it. But the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, I think, has to be mine. And then talking about the trend, it's really fun to throw. But the other thing we were talking about was where is it actually going to fit in an arsenal if you've got an Emerald, if you've got an Idle Pearl, and if you've got an Astro. R2S Pearl is freaking awesome, but where does it actually end up?
Yeah, so for me, it's the ironic thing right now is short answer is it won't. Like, yeah, I mentioned this earlier. I go straight from an astrophysics to a hustle link if I'm staying on the shiny side of my bag.
Uh-huh.
And the Parallax, or not the Parallax, the trend is kind of in between those two reactions. And most of the time with physical adjustments and tweaking speed and angles and such, I'm not really stuck in between an Astro and an Ink. So it's kind of, if I was bowling on more demanding conditions and I needed like a more detailed kind of stepwise arsenal, then yeah, something like the trend might make that cut. But for right now, I mean, if I need something with a big core that's shiny, the Astro is more workable in more situations. If I need something with a smaller, that's a little cleaner, then I throw the Ink. And if I need something that's going to get through the front swell but be smoother down lane, I throw my IQ Tour Solid. So it's kind of, ironically enough, it's almost in High Road X territory for me, where it's a really fun ball to throw.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be one that makes my core arsenal. Because it's kind of in between a bunch of other stuff where it's good at some parts of what those other balls all do for me. But those other balls do other specific things better that make sense in the combined arsenal sense. And this is another of those optimization things we were talking about that we're going to talk about later down the road.
Yeah, and so it's not one of those things where it's not really a knock on the trend at all, because I think it's going to be, and if you don't have an Astro, if you don't have an Idle Pearl or something like that, this is going to be something like just go for it. Yes, if you don't have an Idle Pearl or an Astro, you definitely want one of these. If you do have both of those and possibly an IQ Emerald, you might want to slow your roll a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
I think I'm just going to take the 3 new ones, my Emerald and my spare ball Monday.
But yeah, the differences, like the IQ Tour Nano Pearl and the Parallax, are a little bit more unique reactions that kind of fill holes, and the trend does fill a hole in the On the Storm side of things, don't shoot me in the face. Yeah.
Do it again. Do it again.
But the trend is going to be one of those showy, like, we did this type things.
Yeah.
It's the math is pretty simple on that one. It's a whole lot more obvious than these other two are. But yeah, and this one,
it's like I mentioned earlier, is the bowling math actually does work with the trend.
yeah. The Tour Nano Pearl, let's talk about scents here, too, because I failed to put that. Normally I hit that in Angel's reviews, and I failed to do that.
Yeah.
This smells like the Gravity Evolve. It's that kind of orange. Yeah. Yeah, it's got this kind of orange peel thing going on like the Gravity Evolve does.
Isn't it scent like orange glaze or something like that?
Yeah, it's
on
orange
the Nano
glaze. And actually on the Nano Pearl, you mentioned that once you took it out of the box, it was, because on the promo picture and whatever else, it just kind of looks brown. But when you actually get it, it's got some mica in here, and there's some gold, and there's some burgundy, and once it actually shines up a little bit, I think, and once you get it in your hands and can kind of see what's going on, it's a whole lot better looking in person than it looks on either and even on the video when I'm looking at it here. And
yeah, it reminds me of the IQ Tour 30 on a lot like. It's very similar to that, where it's like this kind of like really dark copper pearl swirly thing going on. It looks really nice.
And the trend is pretty obvious. I mean, this smells. This is
blueberry.
It's blueberry, so it's the Axiom. It's not quite the blueberry muffin of the IQ Tour Fusion. Yeah, the IQ Tour Fusion. And this one is just, again, they're like, okay.
Visually, it's the best looking of the three by far, in my opinion.
And it's like, I think that they were tired of the whole Belmo ball thing. It's like, okay, well, we're just gonna flip the script on this, and let's hear you keep talking bad about Belmo balls. Because that's not really possible with this one. But yeah, it looks great. It smells like blueberry. I mean, I can't imagine the person who doesn't actually like blue. Plus, it's got kind of this aqua teal. And then it's also got, I don't know if you can see it on the stream, but it's actually got gold mica in the teal as well. And so it really glitters.
Wait, does it really? Hang on.
Yeah, pull yours out. Yeah. Yeah, he's now inspecting. Because the teal has gold and silver, actually, it looks like, in it, and so it really shimmers once you get your face on it.
Sorry, I had to go look at mine.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
But yeah, it's got some gold and silver mica in it, it looks like, and so it really shimmers when you get up close or have some lights on it.
Yeah.
And the Parallax. I'm not a big fan of the scent, but I don't like the kind of more cookie.
Yeah, it's more sugar cookie than funnel cake.
Yeah, it's like a sugar cookie candle or something like that. That's kind of a heavier.
That should have been the first shot of my video, is me making the face of stuff.
Yeah, and this smells a lot like the Lock and the Sonic, that had that kind of. I think the Lock was ginger snap. And then the Sonic was something like gingerbread cookie or.
The Sonic smelled like s'mores.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah,
I don't remember what the labeled scent was, but practically speaking, the Sonic smelled like a s'more.
Yeah.
Read the label and then determine yourself, because how many actually smell like what the label says?
Yeah. Now I'm probably gonna make you go.
The Hybrid Nano was the coconut one, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was.
That just smelled like sunscreen.
Yeah.
Oh, I need one.
I think it's purple.
Oh.
It looks like a Wild Streak.
Oh, that's that one. Never mind.
Yeah.
But I love the smell of sunscreen.
I'm gonna probably make you look at the Parallax too, but it's also got gold and silver mica in it, and so if you look at it under the light,
I'll be right back.
It's not as bad.
But yeah, this one's also got sparkly logos on it too. I think you can definitely, that shows up on camera really well. The sparkly logo. And then hopefully I'm not going to drop this on my computer.
Oh, God,
but yeah, it's got gold and silver mica in it, so it looks really cool.
You need to fix my thumbs, by the way.
Yep. I got the tools to do that.
Are you sure?
Huh?
How to use them?
Yep.
I'm not seeing the mic on the Parallax.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It sparkles a little bit, but
Yeah.
the
Not
the
as
I see the
logos.
sparkles. I see the sparkles in the logo, just not in the ball
Yeah, the
itself.
logos are sparkly.
Yeah. One kind of complete random sidebar is Luke. I know you've been preaching the value of the Quad Classic ices.
Oh yeah.
They're amazing. So
Yep.
I just made the switch last week to those, and they are.
Yep.
I'm really loving the feel of
Hey,
that.
yeah, go get me a couple of those grips too.
Seriously?
Yep. We're doing grips. Or I'm going to talk about it when I'm drilling stuff tomorrow. But yeah, the Quad Classic ices are,
the clear Quad Classics. They're fantastic, and they look good and everything too, which is really nice.
So they're kind of like a blue. They're kind of a bluish clear. They're not like just plain clear. They've got kind of a. I guess that's probably why they call them ice.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's
would
got
make
kind of
sense.
a little tint to it, but they're
Let's
soft.
catch up on chat questions while you're
Oh,
just
okay.
doing that.
Yep.
Psychosis. What would be a good addition to my arsenal of Crux Prime, Intense, and All Out Show Off? I have only thrown one of those, so I will defer to you. I have a couple of possible ideas, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Let's see. I gotta go back up there. Where is this at?
It's probably up about 30 comments or so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there we go. What would be a good addition to Crux Prime Intense and All Out Show Off? The Crux Prime was weird. The Intense was kind of hit or miss. I did like the All Out Show Off because it acted like a little bit more. I mean, it was kind of MVP Pearlish actually.
A little bit, yeah.
But you could add. There's so many things that you could add to those because the Crux Prime doesn't really act like anything else. The Intense was weird because it was kind of like an Intense Fire, but 2 or 3 feet earlier, and not nearly as sharp.
See, that's the interesting thing is I have those two balls, nothing alike shape-wise.
Yeah.
Like the Fire is like, the Fire was an ASM High Road X, where it's like the further left you get, the better the ball gets.
Yeah, yeah, it wants to wheel.
Yeah, the original Intense felt like, hey, the closest analog I can think of is a Hypercell Fuse that's 2 feet longer, but the same total board coverage. When I threw it, it felt super heavy. Sonic.
Yeah, very.
It's very similar to that type of shape, where it's like
very chuggy.
heavy and chuggy and not a huge change of direction.
So yeah, the Crux Prime and Intense don't really act a whole lot like anything that's out right now. So you probably need something between the Prime, the Intense, and the All Out Show Off. So something between that Intense and the All Out Show Off. So you're probably, I mean, you trend,
Nano Pearl.
Yeah, Nano Pearl or a Trend might even fit in there.
If you already have an All Out
but-
Show Off, then
Yeah.
unless you really need another clean ball, I'd lean towards a Nano Pearl or even an IQ Tour Solid.
Yeah,
Get
probably.
that earlier traction. But you don't. I will say the one ball I wouldn't get in this bag is an Idol or a Phase 2, because I think they would be too close to the Crux Prime.
Yeah, they're gonna have a similar thing in there. So
Exactly. Oh, hey, Josh Shoemaker's here.
Yep, High Road Nano's the goat. All right. So
let's see, what else do we miss?
which of the three?
Omega Crux versus IQ Nano Pearl. Love the standard Pearl on the Omega. Would it be worth buying the new IQ?
Huh. Yeah, they are kind of a similar idea, actually, because they both kind of are a little bit slower on friction. I think that the
ASIM of the same type of concept, though.
Yeah. So that's
In that
actually
sense, it might make sense.
That's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah. So, possibly, to answer your question, Brian Emmel, that's something I do want to test. Is I want to get my Omega out and compare that to the Parallax and the Nano Pearl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be.
Those all have some very similar cover stock characteristics.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I saw one there.
Lots of blue in Storm's recent releases.
Yep.
Blue and black covers just roll really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's think about my grab and go 6-ball bag right now. Is a Physics, a Phase 2, an IQ Tour Solid, an Astrophysics, and a Hustle Link.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all roll really, really well, so I don't really care.
Out of all storm balls, what are the best two? I can't really pick a best two. Best is kind of relative. It's like
Out of all?
yeah. Out of what's better,
Oh,
a 5 iron or a 7 iron? It really depends on the.
it's like having to pick a favorite kid. Holy crap!
Yeah. I've been partial to the Idle Pearl for a long time. I know it's not Storm. I don't know if you mean Storm and Roto or just specifically Storm. Phase two's got to be one of them, just because.
Phase 2 is my answer. There's no question.
And then the other one might even be the Astro. I wasn't expecting the Astro to be as good on the left side as it is, but it's pretty beastly. So, and that's kind of slighting all the other ones. But Phase 2 and Astro would be kind of hard to beat.
I mean, I still say that if you give me a Phase 2, an Astro, and an ink, I can strike on almost any house shot.
Yeah.
So, I know that's not the right answer, but
are you
fight
throwing?
me. I don't care.
Let's see. Which of the three would be best for a house shot? The IQ Tour Nano Pearl is a whole lot better than I thought it was going to be on a house shot specifically. It's going to be amazing on a sport pattern, but it's way better than the other IQs on a house shot, and that's kind of saying something because the IQ Tour is hit and miss. It's situational, but the Emerald's pretty good on house shots in general. But yeah, that one's pretty good. The trend is probably going to be the most eye-popping or the most eye-catching. It's a house shot killer type of looking ball. You're gonna throw it and you're gonna smile because it just looks cool. Now whether it actually knocks the pins down or not, that really depends on you, but it's gonna look really cool doing it. Let's see. Quad Classic clears. Yeah, Riley's talking about that, and I actually have that in my hand right now, so we're going to talk a little Turbo Quad Classic clears. The difference between, if you're not big into grips or if you don't work in a pro shop, you're probably not as familiar with the different types of grips, but the regular Quad Classics, that if you go to a shop and they sell turbo grips, you're probably going to get the regular quads, just the regular turbo quads, which have they have the power lift, so they've got the little lip on the one side, and then it's just kind of textured on the other side, and then on the flip side, that's the round, more oval side, you're going to have one side be smooth and one side be textured. Now the ices, even the regular quad ices are better than the regular quads, but the Quad Classics, the difference here is that the Quad Classics are round all the way around. There's no texture on the inside of that right there. And these are also pretty gummy. They're very tacky and they're pretty soft, so they're softer than the normal even the Quad Classics. Because in my Astro I've got a Quad Classic in blue, and it's a little bit harder and not quite as tacky as these suckers are. And so they're soft, they're gummy, they're tacky, and that would almost make you think that, well, they're going to tear my fingers up. Well, actually, it's kind of, you get grip without them tearing your fingers up. So these are just the feel, the feel and the texture of them is pretty amazing too. So I've got a couple new converts in Riley and James here.
Yeah, no, I regret my entire main arsenal about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
With the Quad Classics or the Quad Classic clears, and then immediately went out, bowled a tournament in one center, won high series on both the handicap and the scratch side, and swept the game 3 pots with a 771. Then went bowled league that night and shot 783 with a different ball. But yeah, no, it felt really, really consistent on my fingers. Like I mentioned earlier, I use vacuum grips as well, so it's like even the regular Turbo Quad Classics versus normal vice grips, it feels more secure, and the classic ices just add that bit of extra security.
Yeah, these things are, I can't remember when, or I think I actually got some of these by accident. I ordered turbo quads and they sent me Quad Classics, so I'm like, what the crap are these things? And then I'm like, oh, wait a second here. We might be onto something.
Yeah.
Let's see. John Schaffer, check out Luke's interview with Chad McLean. If you have not, it was quite interesting. Yes, it was pretty interesting. I said a lot, but it went significantly better than my pro interviews have gone because I can actually, I've known Chad for a couple of years and I can actually talk to Chad. I can't talk to the pros, so if I can spit the question out to the pros and get them talking, it's just better for everybody concerned, so I can just kind of vacantly stare into the camera. This is another thing, James.
Ooh, nice.
The tri-roller that's got...
Yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah. So this is pretty amazing. This is a ball cup that's not a ball cup, but all these are ball bearings in here, and so they roll around. So if you put a ball on this, it just turns all over the place. It's not like those the master ones that just kind of turn. They have the ball bearings on them, but just turn. No, this lets you do 360 with the bowling ball, and so it's a whole lot easier to do layouts and stuff. You can kind of move it around, and there's no resistance, and it's all silky and everything. So
That's awesome.
that's a whole lot of awesome too. So, and again, I am going to, for those of you that don't know, and I said to somebody else that I had a bigger announcement, but I have my own drill press now. If you watch the Chad interview, you'll know I have my own drill press, but I didn't just get a little tabletop thing to make do. I got a Jayhawk Tri-Oval, which is the top of the line. It's got digitals. It's got tables you can move back and forth. Ovals with it. It's a one-stop shop. You don't have to take it off the press to do anything to it. You can do 100% of the drilling. Just set it in there, line it up, and go. I've got electrifies and the PBR to drill in the morning, and so I think I'm going to stream some drilling on the new press, and I got a table full of all kinds of tools and everything, so I have my own fully functioning pro shop in here. For those of you that are in the area, that doesn't mean that I'm going to drill your stuff, because I'm not about that. I got it to make my life easier, not to drill a whole bunch of extra stuff. And matter of fact, I only have the drill bits to drill my and Angel's stuff. So, sorry, but sorry if you were interested. But I still work for the pro shop here. So, keep going there. So, Riley asking the high road. No, I have not gotten the high road pursuit even started plugging. We've been so busy here recently that, I mean, this has been a crazy week. Normally ball review weekends are crazy weekends anyway, but I had this to do, and I actually had a association meeting this morning. I was supposed to be at Kansas City bowling a tournament, but I had to back out of that because we had our local association annual meeting, and so I was in that, and then I've been drilling stuff and filming stuff and making videos and whatever else, and I think tomorrow we kind of have a little bit of a break once I get done drilling some stuff. But again, I'm drilling electrifies, so I need to do videos for those. And then I've got a whole bunch of comparison videos to do because there's people asking about comparisons to stuff, and so there's some bowls that we didn't see in the reviews that people are going to want to see. So I've got some stuff staring at me, and I might even put holes in a Marvel Max Force, but yeah. And I know that James is going to get, it looks like you're pretty far along in the process already for doing your videos, so...
Getting there. The footage I captured today is probably going to be a brief cameo, if anything, in my final review videos.
Okay.
And I think this is something I might have touched on previously, but the way I'm kind of approaching my videos is I'm intentionally not sprinting to be the first person to get a video out, because there's already 30 other channels that do that.
Yeah.
I would rather take the approach of taking a little more time to learn the equipment, especially with a reaction like the Parallax that I haven't really used before.
Yeah.
I'd rather take the time to learn the reaction, and then, there's something like a phase 2 where a dead fresh phase 2 versus a 15-game phase 2 is a different ball.
Yeah.
And so I want to get some time to get the covers settled in and actually get to know the ball so I can try and formulate the best opinion I can of the ball before I put out a video on it, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I especially with the trend, because I think that cover will settle a little bit more. I'll probably say like, this is what I had out of the box. This is what I had at 20, 30 games or whatever it's at when I shoot the video, just to kind of illustrate that delta. Um, and I don't know. We'll see how things settle with the covers on the Trend and the
Yeah, the Parallax.
wow. I'm getting ball names mixed up. The Parallax and the IQ Nano Pearl. So yeah, I'm getting there. My list of stuff that I've got coming down the pipe is I'm really excited to kind of pull this together. I'm going to be hopefully doing this tomorrow. Is a video kind of I took my camera today and turned it on for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And basically using that to then go back and voice over on just like the spliced together video to kind of describe the mindset of how I go about learning a ball, learning its characteristics, learning what it's good at, what it's bad at. Because a lot of that ties back into lane play theory in the first place. Is like, you need to be in a certain part of the lane, and this ball is doing this right or this other thing wrong, or is showing a certain behavior. Then that means what does that mean for your ball motion? What should you adjust from there?
Yeah, I think on my videos I show or talk about where I kind of end up at, but I don't really ever talk about much of the process. I kind of keep the process off camera and get to, okay, well this is what I figured out. But yeah, that process is pretty important, especially when you're when you're looking at something like the Parallax. It's like, well, this is different. I don't have anything else that reacts like this, so let's put it through its paces and let's try a bunch of different things and let's figure this out. And that also goes back to something about the equipment optimization that I think is going to be really interesting to have you on for. Because there's a whole lot more that goes into it than just, I either ball up into this or I ball down into this, with the different shapes and friction responses and hook potentials and whatever else. They all that goes so much more into arsenal building, I think, for me, than just, well, this ball hooks more than this ball and I want to make sure that I have this amount of hook and this amount of hook and this amount of hook. Well, that has a whole lot less to do with what I'm actually going to take or what I'm actually going to put together versus shapes and friction responses and
length
that kind
and
of
shape
stuff
are way more important than total hook, in my opinion. So, what was the other? Oh yeah, going back to the very beginning of the video, Justin Stewart had asked where we would put the three new balls in the 1 to 5 slots.
Yeah, so he's probably he's probably long gone by now, but. So the Parallax, I think that there's a couple different, like the UFO is always going to be a 1 ball, just period. There's no way for that to be a 2 ball because it's the strongest thing out there. Something like a Physics could be a 1 ball, it could be a 2 ball depending on your rev rate, the conditions, your speed, other things like that. I think the Parallax is pretty solidly a 2 ball. I don't think it's got the hook or the traction and if you sanded it, but I wouldn't really recommend sanding it. I'd leave it shiny, and I'd just do, because Casey Murphy actually sanded his, and he's like, what the hell is up with this ball? It's really early, it's really slow, and he's shining it back. He actually shined it back up, and he's one that always takes the shine off of covers because he likes stuff as early and slow as could be, basically. But I think the actual cover strength is a whole lot higher than people realize, and with it already being smoother, I think you want to leave that shine on and just work with it and kind of test it out to begin with. But even then, I don't really think that you want to add surface to it. If you're adding surface to that ball, then you're looking for something that could be accomplished better by something else.
By buying an Omega Crux. Wait, what?
Yeah.
I would agree with that 100% on the Parallax and where that fits in a bag. It's kind of that like stronger but not top of the bag type of reaction. So what about the Nano Pearl? I think we're gonna have the same answer here as well.
I think it's probably pretty solidly a 3 ball too. I think it's too strong to reach down to a 4 ball. I think if you're two-handed, I think that even if you're two-handed and even if you don't carry a whole lot of, it could possibly, probably, maybe be a 2-ball, but that's a stretch, and that'd be for somebody that has a pretty high rev rate and doesn't throw it very fast. But I think it's a pretty solidly in the 3-ball slot for the vast majority of people. It's just kind of that jack of all trades in the middle of everything. It's not phase 2 strong, but it's not IQ Tour weak. It's not boomy, but it's not like super slow. I was thinking it was going to be slower than it actually was, but it's blendy, but once it picks up, it kind of accelerates almost.
Once it picks up, it just keeps going.
Yeah,
which is actually pretty cool. And it's a very unique shape that they don't really have with anything else in either product line right now.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from possibly the high-red pearl.
Possibly,
That's what mine does at least. It just doesn't stop, which it's so clean before it doesn't start hooking. It doesn't stop. It just does weird stuff. But I think the trend is pretty easy to answer as well.
I think it's pretty solidly a 3-ball too.
Wait, that's not what I was going to say, but interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's too clean for that.
Yeah,
like that's almost reaching down into 4, almost 5-ball territory.
Yeah,
because my thought there is it's a borderline high road pearl.
Yeah, I think for me, it's quite a bit stronger than a high road pearl, or it's at least earlier. And I'm actually, the wife and I were kind of digging around, and I found a high road pearl that I had that I drilled lefty probably a year ago, a year and a half ago, when I even just started toying with the idea of this righty thing is not going well, and so maybe it's time to start thinking about it again. But I drilled it. I didn't really like the idea, and then I started bowling okay righty, and so I kind of put it back in the box and forgot about it. But I'm actually going to get that out and get it kind of... I actually took the slug out of it, and I'm ready to kind of get that fit up. And so I am going to try that against the trend and see what we actually end up with. The IQ Tour Solid and the High Road Pearl were the vast majority of what I threw lefty the last go-around. In addition to the Hectic 2, that was pretty heckin' awesome. But so yeah, I'm gonna check that out and test those against each other and see what we got there. So
checking to make sure we didn't miss any other main questions.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking. I don't think it's.
It's been pretty chill, honestly.
Yeah. This has been weird, even though we've had 70-some people in here most of the time. But after watching
for 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I answered a lot of questions on the videos so far, and then we had the Chad stream that kind of answered a whole bunch of stuff there too. And so yeah, I was actually thinking I'm starting to get hungry, and we've been talking for 2 hours, and so yeah, I think
Riley just asked another question.
Riley.
Parallax equals stronger Trident Nemesis? I don't think so. I think the Nemesis is faster.
Yeah, I think the Nemesis is still faster.
Faster and more change of direction.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Riley, I think that you would love a Parallax.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think that Riley would also love an IQ Tour Nano Pearl. Probably could leave the trend out of it. That's just, he doesn't need that much. But
yeah, he never needs that much boom.
Yeah. All right. So I think that'll wrap it up. We're gonna go. I'm not gonna schedule anything. The wife's just gonna pull out her phone, and we're gonna do kind of a random impromptu thing with drilling a bowling ball tomorrow morning at some point. I don't think it'll probably be 11 o'clock or noon or something like that. We're just kind of gonna pop in when we pop in, and that's that. But thanks, James, for showing up and talking some new stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Yeah, his videos will probably be another couple weeks. Mine are a good estimation of what you can expect right out of the box, and I do put 10 to 15 games on them to try to get past that initial. I don't think putting holes in something and throwing it 10 times constitutes a review, or even really it tells you much about a ball to begin with. And so even though I'm on the newer end of the spectrum and get them out pretty quick, it's what you can expect out of the box. And then James's stuff is going to be more on, okay, so we got it out of the box, this is kind of what it looks like, but where are we going to end up 30, 40 games from here with the ball that you're going to end up with overall. It's not the, a lot of people, first impressions are big, but at the same time, that's not always necessarily the ball that you're going to end up with later.
Yeah.
I've been faked out several times, especially by like the Idle Pearl.
Yeah.
I hated it, and I tried to.
I actually, while we're on that topic, I have a really good fake out story.
Oh, okay.
And I think I referenced it earlier. It's the Daredevil.
Mhm.
I had never owned So I first started throwing Storm Roto gear, I think, was it March 2017, which was right
Okay.
after the Daredevil first came out.
Mhm.
And I owned the Code Black, I owned a Timeless, I owned a Rose Pearl. I just never got around to getting a Daredevil, even though it
Yeah.
looked like a great ball.
Mhm.
And so during quarantine, I was finally like, all right, screw it. I'm bored. I'm getting a Daredevil. That was literally my entire rationale is I'm bored. I'm getting a Daredevil.
Yeah.
Drilled it up. It looked amazing out of the
Yeah.
box. Like
The flippiest Daredevil anyone's ever thrown.
this is how much I like the Daredevil is I did not take an astrophysics with me to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like that says volumes right there because I've been carrying an Astro or a Code Black exclusively for like 6 months in my bag.
Yeah.
And then the Daredevil comes along, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I got to that. It wasn't even game count that tipped it over the line. It was having to redo the surface to get it back to like proper polish and not like lane burn on top of polish.
Yeah.
And when I did that, then it did settle in, and I realized that, because I use the same when I repolish stuff on a spinner myself. I usually use the Powerhouse Factory Finish Polish.
Uh-huh.
Just I like the feel of it a little better and the way it reacts a little bit better than the Step 2 surface on a spinner.
Uh-huh.
And so I did that, and I threw it, and it just would get down the lane and just kind of turn into kind of being lazy. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And then
it would
that was when I
walk
realized
out, yeah.
that I had gotten fooled. And
Yeah.
it's because of stuff like that I kind of took that systemic decision with my channel that I'm not putting out final opinions on balls until I get the cover settled in and actually learn what the truth of that ball is. Not the truth of the first 20 games, but because if you only care about the truth for the first 20 games, you have to drill a new ball once a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And versus if you learn about the truth of a ball long term, then you can drill a ball, and even if it's not perfect right away, then you know what you're going to get to.
Yeah, you know what you're going to end up with, not what you're going to start with.
If you get the truth from 20 to 200 games, that's way more important than from 0 to 20 games, in my opinion. So that's where that decision came from. And the Daredevil is a really good, very front of mind justification for that.
Yeah, and I've had a couple. The Idle Pearl specifically, it was hot garbage. I hated it. And even if I hate the ball, I still have to think, okay, well, who is this going to be good for? Who's this going to work for? Because it's not. I don't like the people that really talk up something that they like or then dog on something that they don't like, because it's, all kinds of people are different. And Angels looked ridiculous. I mean, Angels Idle Pearl, and I'm like, what the crap did I get? Because they don't look anywhere similar. And then I kept seeing
or you with the IQ Emerald.
Yeah, and that was garbage for me, but it looks great for literally everybody else. And now, even instead of just saying, okay, well, it was garbage on the right side, so I'm not drilling one on the left side. Well, no, this is Emerald number 3, and this one looks amazing on the left side. And the Idle Pearl, when I gave it another shot and I drilled it pinned down, totally different ball. And now I'm on number 4 or 5 or something, whatever that is, lefty ball.
Great for you, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Wild Streak, too, I got a little faked out on that because I thought, well, the first 10 to 15 games, it was straighter off the end of the pattern. And I thought, well, this is going to be a great sport ball or something to really control your angles with. But after that, it broke in, and it's ridiculous now. I mean, I take that thing everywhere on the right side of the lane, and I've got a 300 and 800 on it, and so, yeah, that turned out to be a whole lot better. And I thought it was good to begin with, but it turned out to be a whole lot better after I got some games on. That's kind of why I come back and do the 2-month report cards later. But at the same time, don't the people that get a ball and they sell it in 5 games is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because number one, you're losing like 3/4 of or 2/3 of what you paid for it to begin with. And you're not even close to scratching the surface of what the ball is going to do in 5 games. I put more games on a ball doing my reviews than than some people put on balls after they spend 200 and some odd dollars on them.
Yeah. I will say there are a few instances. One of those was the High Road Nano, where I pretty much instantly bailed on a ball.
Mm-hmm.
But the only time I will actually do that is when it's too slow down lane.
Uh-huh.
Because you're never gonna like if it's just really really slow and lazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to overcome that
Because it's gonna
if
get
it's too. It's only gonna get lazier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No matter what I do to the surface, especially if it's a dull ball out of the box. So it's like there's literally nothing I can do to make it better if it's too lazy out of the box. If it's too fast out of the box, that's fine, and I can work with that.
Yeah.
You know, hit it with surface, throw it in practice, get 20 games on it, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and I think that's actually going to come into our equipment optimization thing too, because there's some of them, like you say, the Phase 2, the Idle Pearl, some of them you just have to drill and ignore them for 30 games. You just have to put the work in on them to get to what you're going to have for the next 150 after that.
Or what I'm going to do, I've got a blank Phase 2 sitting behind me. When I drill that up probably later this summer, I'm going to not carry my physics for a month.
Yeah.
And I'm going to carry my fresh Phase 2 and my old Phase 2.
Yeah.
And they will do the same thing as my physics and my current Phase 2.
Yeah.
And then once they start to be about the same, I will start to realize that. I just put the physics back in the bag and I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm hungry and I want a snack before bed. So thanks again. I think we got everything caught up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Tons more stuff to come over the next couple weeks. Electrifies, hustles, comparison videos to all the above. Whatever else. And I'm going to try to get my next guest for 30 clean. And so, yeah. That'll be that. Thanks once again, James.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
For hanging out. And, yep, we'll see y'all later.
Adios.